sort of amazing, having done this a good number of the years, that we have seen the Latino caucus continue to grow and grow. And I always think it takes tremendous courage to run for office, because you really have to put yourself out there and expose yourself, and every dark secret that you ever had, you have to worry about whether or not it's going to come out. So in addition to the good public service our Latino caucus members are, they also just have tremendous courage. So let's give them a round of applause to get started. And we've got a pretty open format, but what I'd like to suggest, just to get started, is if I could ask every caucus member, obviously your name and your district, but very succinctly, because we really want to get to questions. We know that we're in this tremendous moment of change in the nation, on the planet, and certainly here in our state of Illinois. So what is the one thing that you would like to be different for the Latino community 4 years from now? And let's, I guess, just go. Is that okay? Everyone okay with that question? Let's just go in alpha order.
Hello? Hello? I think it's on. Yep. State Senator Omar Aquino from the 2nd District, which is on the northwest side of the city of Chicago, communities of West Town on the east, all the way to Elmwood Park on the west. And so what I'd like to see in the next 4 years for the Latino community, actually, it's kind of funny, this, my colleague here to my left, State Representative Linda Chaparravilla, had just said, it's funny that at a certain point, it seems that there's more people on on this side of the table than on that. And so in the next 4 years, I'd like to see more people on this side of the table, that our state is reflecting our communities, and we have more and more people like Delia Ramirez, Celina Villanueva, Aaron Ortiz, Karina Villa from the suburbs that are winning these positions. So I want to see the General Assembly look browner, more female, more everything that reflect our communities. Yep. Thank you.
We always make room at the table.
Jaime Andrade, I'm the State Representative, 40th District, north side of Chicago, about 2 miles west of Wrigley Field. One thing I would like to see different is, with the new governor, I would like to see more Latinos in position of power. And I don't mean just like a liaison. I mean, I would like to see, directors. The director, and then, because I believe when you have the director and you have the charge of personnel in charge as a Latino, it's a domino effect, and it helps out the whole department. And, in DCFS and all the departments that deal a lot with our community and human services. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Representative Chaparravilla from Aurora. Thanks everybody for coming out to this amazing event. And 4 years from now, I want to see 10 newly elected Latinos in the caucus. That's what I want to add. That's a goal of mine, that we do that under the new administration, but under the new caucus leadership and the members, that we're reaching out, making sure that we're promoting more people to run for office at different levels. And also, what you'll see over here, we're kind of Democratic-centric up here. I think that we need to reach out to our Republican independent friends, to their Latino, and encourage them to run for office, because not until the other side of the aisle looks like our aisle will we move this country forward together. Thank you.
Great. So, Senator Castro, the question was, what do you want to see different in 4 years? And obviously to introduce yourself as well.
Okay. I am State Senator Cristina Castro. I represent the 22nd Senate District, which covers Elgin, Carpentersville, Hoffman, Hanover. Hey, there's my U46 peeps. Streamwood, a portion of Schaumburg, and a tiny portion of Bartlett. In the next 4 years, I think we have a great opportunity in the next 4 years. We have a governor who understands immigrant issues, Latino issues, compared to the previous administration. On top of the fact that I agree with my colleagues, we want representation at all levels of government, but also on commissions and boards. And we do have to build a pipeline for more Latino representation, because there's only 2 of us in the Senate. And so that is one of the things I look forward to working on the next 4 years, and we need all of your help as well. I know a lot of you are participating in this, but we need an active community to help not only support us, but also to support you back and continue to grow that pipeline.
Muy buenas tardes. It's been a long day. So, you know, the question is, what do we see, or what would we like to see in 4 years from now? Well, for that to happen, I have to win the election in 2020 and 2022. So hopefully I'll get elected again. And I agree with my colleagues here. We would like to see people in the administration in positions of power and influence. I think they intend to do that. I can tell you just based on my personal observation, when I looked at the campaign team for the J.B. Pritzker campaign, and I asked a simple question: who's your highest ranking Latino or Latina in the campaign? And it was a third or fourth tier person. It was not someone who had a direct contact with J.B. Pritzker. And we need to demand that. We need to make sure that he has someone in the administration who's Latino, who can go directly to the governor and not have to go through a layer or two to get there. That is key, and we'll be asking for that. And 4 years from now, you've heard me talk earlier about funding for education. We're putting in $350 million a year of new money for education. That is not enough. Under that rate, it's going to take us 20 years to get where we need to be. That's not good enough. We need a 5 or 7 year plan, and I'm hoping with this administration we can have that conversation. Obviously, that's going to require additional revenues, and we need to have that conversation as well. And lastly, I hope in 4 years from now we can look back and say that we've had a budget the preceding 4 years, every single year. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Hernandez. I go by Lisa. It's actually Elizabeth Hernandez, State Representative of the 24th District, which is the little village Cicero Berwyn extends all the way to Brookfield. I have to agree so far with all my colleagues. I think it's a matter of reaching the goals of more Latino representation, absolutely at every level, in order for us to get ahead. But I'm going to also add I would like to see in 4 years a building of more public trust in the process, in the political process. Why? Because we proved it. This past election, Latinos came out, I believe, 172% increase. That's telling. That's telling. It works. It works. We have to invest in that political process of getting more Latinos to come out and vote. And that is where I want to see growth. That voter turnout has to grow. So we have to invest dollars to make that occur or continue. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Ma. I represent the Second House District in Illinois, and that includes the Chicago neighborhoods of Pilsen, Chinatown, Bridgeport, McKinley Park, Brighton Park, and back of the yards. So as you can tell, I have a very diverse, multiracial district, and I think that in the next 4 years, I'd like to see stronger cross-racial coalitions in the legislature so that we can get things done. We need more cooperation and collaboration, and if we're shooting for equity and representation for all underrepresented groups, we have to work together. You know, we can't fight amongst ourselves for crumbs. We have to increase the pie, and I'm in the legislature to do that, and I look forward to working with everybody, especially our newly elected members. I think that we have a very robust coalition and an opportunity to work together so that we can all have more of the pie.
Hi, hello? Oh, there you are. Hi, I'm State Senator Iris Martinez. I represent the 20th District, which includes Avondale. I know that, help me out here, Jamie. I know you're back over there. I represent Logan Square, Avondale. God, what's the biggest? What's somebody's community that I'm trying to think, I got a block, but it'll come back to me. But anyhow, the most important thing for me in 4 years from now is continue to build the Women Coalition. I think Latina women, we need to continue to grow in numbers. That's something that I have been seeing. We're seeing it. I mean, I was the first Latina in the state Senate, and finally I have my co-partner, Cristina Castro, that came from the suburbs, and I'm very happy because she is a very strong woman, and I know that we're going to make some great things happen in the state Senate. But now I'm even more excited to see that there's so many young women and women of all kinds, I mean, of all walks of life right here that are able to be a representation in this caucus that is growing every single year. Every 2 years we're growing, and I want to see in the next couple of years for us to be able to recruit, go out there and recruit much more people of color to come into public office, because I think that's the only way we're going to have a great balance across the whole entire state. And I also am expecting from this governor to make sure, like past governors, even Democrats, that said that we're going to put Latinos in places they never did. And that's one thing that I'm going to hold accountable this time around, is making sure that all these agencies that deal with our communities, that we see people that look like us in those positions there. And I'm not going to take no for an answer this time around. We're going to have to make things happen, because the only way we're going to be heard is by making sure that we let our governor know and the administration that we want to help. We want to create administration that is workable for everyone out there, and that no one is left behind. So I want to make sure that these next 4 years we build upon more people of color in the administration, running these agencies, and not only that, but the boards and commission. I want to encourage people in this room to start looking at the applications and go to the website and start getting on the boards and commissions. There's a lot of vacancies. We need people like you to be part of these boards and commission. That's my plan for the next 4 years. Albany Park. I knew it was going to come to me. Albany Park. I knew it was going to come back to me. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm State Representative Anna Moeller. I represent the Elgin area, Carpentersville. Woohoo! Hi, everybody. Great to see all of you. I've been in office since 2014, and I love working with Senator Cristina Castro. She's my senator, and she's been a great partner in sponsoring and supporting legislation that's good for our communities. The areas that we have focused on and we'll keep pushing for is equity, especially pay equity for women and women of color, and communities that have been exploited and kind of taken advantage of for far too long. Senator Castro and I sponsored a bill last year that would strengthen the Equal Pay Act and prohibit employers from asking for prior wage information. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that bill 2 years in a row, Governor Rauner. We're going to bring that bill back next year, and Governor Pritzker is going to sign it. He's already told us, he's made that pledge. So economic security, economic prosperity has to be at the top of the list, so that we are expanding that pie, as Representative Ma referenced. And I know that Governor Pritzker has made that a part of his agenda, raising the minimum wage, increasing access to health care, child care, all of those policy areas that mean so much to our communities and help lift people in our communities to increase prosperity. I also want to echo what Representative Hernandez mentioned. I represent a majority Hispanic community, and we have one of the lower voter turnout rates in the state, and we need to do something about that. Elgin as a community has become incredibly diverse and has a very rich Hispanic community, but unfortunately locally we don't have a lot of representation, and we haven't seen a lot of political engagement. We have very effective and vibrant community organizations, but politically they haven't really been very active, and I think that's something we need to prioritize, because we saw a strong reaction to what's going on in Washington with this last election, a rebuke of what President Trump is doing to our communities and, and violating the values of this country. So we saw people come out in rejection of that, but we need people to keep coming out, to keep supporting programs and policies that uplift our communities. And I worry that when we get rid of Trump, which we hope will happen in 2020, that we'll lose voter engagement after that. So we need to do a lot of work to make sure that people are getting registered and staying engaged and staying involved politically. So that's something that I think we need to focus on in the coming years as well. And I look forward to working with all of my colleagues and all of you to move our state forward. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the newest member of the team, State Representative Selena Villanueva from the 21st District. My district encompasses half of Little Village, along with Lisa. The neighborhoods of Brighton Park, Garfield Ridge, and then out in the suburbs, the southwest suburbs of Lyons, Stickney, Summit, Forest View, and parts of Riverside and Cicero and Berwyn. I think for me, very importantly, and I'm going to echo the sentiments of a lot of my colleagues, is obviously increased Latino and immigrant voter engagement, making sure that our voices are heard at the ballot box, but also understanding how voting rights is affecting our entire country and making sure that we're strengthening the laws to ensure that any barriers are removed for our people to have access to the ballot box. That also goes hand in hand with increasing citizenship and naturalization numbers within our communities, because this is the thing, we are one of the only communities outside of obviously Asian communities that have the potential to increase their electorate by at least 100% because we have so many people that are not naturalized citizens that can become naturalized citizens. So it's going to be really, really important to ensure that we're increasing our electorate by making sure that we're getting people to become citizens of this country so that they have access to the ballot box when elections come. I'm going to be one of those people that's going to echo this sentiment over and over again. In 4 years, I want to make sure we have a brand new president. Because I am done. I was done with him.
I think in 2 years.
Yeah, in 2 years. I know, but it's going to take a lot of time. But I want to make sure that he is gone, and that I want it now too. And that he never comes back, and the vestiges of what he is holding on to of white supremacy never ever rear its ugly head ever again in this country and in this entire state. Because that, my people, is what is harming us. Okay, and when we're talking about voting rights, when we're talking about budgets, when we're talking about everything that's going on and affecting our country, we understand the root causes of what it is. So one other thing, and I will give it over to my colleague over here, is very importantly in the next couple of years that we should all pay attention to, and I hope that we kick ass on this, and I'm sorry I swear a lot, so apologies, is the census, the 2020 census, and the redistricting and the remaps that is going to occur after that. Because if there's ever going to be a point in time that our people have the potential to not only redraw maps, but to ensure that districts, Latino districts and immigrant districts are drawn, and that we are actually able to place people from our communities to represent us on these different levels of government, it is going to be right at that moment. So let's make sure that we get all of our people counted and that we get the maps that we deserve for our communities so that we are adequately and appropriately represented at all levels of government so that we're never left out ever again. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Representative Kathleen Willis. I am proud to be a member of the Latino caucus, even though I am not a Latina. And that is really what my message is. I represent 52% Latinos in my district, and it is important that I recognize that I take their concerns, and I am very, very vocal. Members of this caucus will say, I don't shut up very easily. And so I do that very strongly, and that is important to me. And it is important that I try to continue to reach to other members of the General Assembly, whether they have Latinos in their district or not, to recognize that we need to fight for that cause throughout the entire state. And we need to make sure that we look at where we are underserving our communities and continue to work to make sure that everybody has equal rights, no matter whether you are brown, black, Asian, it doesn't matter at all. We need to make sure that we take care of everybody in our community, and that is one of the things that I try to strive very hard for. My district is the 77th district. It's a combination of Cook and DuPage County. So that right there in itself makes it very unique, and like I told you earlier, it does have 52% Latino population in it, and I will continue to work hard for that population, so thank you.
Wonderful. So we have about half an hour for questions, and this is really your forum to speak directly to your legislators. So I would invite you to come up. There are 2 mics that are right here to come up to the mics so that you can speak your question. It's hard for me to see the legislators from where I'm at, so I'm going to depend on you guys. All of you respond, some of you respond, whoever feels most like responding, that you guys will moderate that. While we have people come up here to ask questions, let me give you sort of 3 targets from things that I heard and 3 things that we can hopefully come back and see if we've seen some progress in 4 years. There are about 157 members of the General Assembly. We're 17% of the state's population. That would mean 34 members of the Latino caucus representing Latino majority districts. We have done some analysis. There are about 36 code agencies that the governor gets to appoint that top-level person. If each of them has 2 or 3 deputies, that is 36 times 3 or 4. We're talking about 17% of 120 or so positions. So that's going to be about 20 to 25, plus whoever is in the governor's office. And we have also done an analysis that shows the gap for boards and appointments. To have 17% of all boards and appointments would mean about another 100 Latinos appointed to boards and commissions in the state of Illinois. So we'll be happy to share that with you. The Latino Policy Forum looks forward to working with you and to help keep track of how our metrics of progress, given all that you've said. With that, I don't see anyone asking questions. Nada? All right. If not, I'll ask them another question, but we want to hear from you, so please line up. Your name, where you're representing, and your question, please.
Is it on?
It's on.
Good afternoon, Gerardo Delgado. I'm actually an advisor at the Illinois Commerce Commission. I had the privilege to also work with former Commissioner Del Valle during his tenure at the commission. My question is, actually there's a message that we need more representation of Latinos in public office, right? And then Senator Martinez suggested vacancies on boards and commissions, which is a great way to kind of get familiarity. But what are other ways or means in which someone could start understanding what it is to get involved in public office and how to go about it?
All right, who would like to tackle that?
Go to the website. This is very important. You go to the website of the Illinois General Assembly, and right there, when you can tap on the boards and commissions. It'll tell you on the boards and commissions what the qualifications are, and what we want to make sure is that you submit the paperwork, whatever they're asking you, make sure that that's submitted. And then let your state rep or your state senator in your district know that that your name is in one of these boards and commissions, because we want to do is we want to gather up as many people as because we want to make sure that the numbers that are coming in as far as the applications are being met as far as making the appointments. And we want to make sure, because we're going to ask in a year's time what happened. I mean, how many of them are Latinos? How many people of color? We just want to make sure, and that's the only way we can track it, to make sure that the administration is looking at these boards and commissions, but they can be filled out right there on the websites, but you can also let us know that you did apply, for these boards and commissions, so we keep a track going. And I don't know if any of the other members here know more about the boards and commissions.
I think, is this working? Okay, so another way too is if you're not necessarily interested in going on to a board and commission, but you want to just be involved with what goes on in your community, I would urge you to reach out to your local elected official. We are constantly looking for volunteers to help. When we do community fairs, we need as many hands on deck as possible to help with that, especially as I do. I am not real fluent in Spanish. I do Spanglish, but I do have staff that is bilingual, and I'm always, certainly when I'm working in my Latino communities, I'm always looking for people to help me translate and that, and plus get the word out that we're doing it. So that's something, you know, if you're interested in doing that, please reach out to your local official, and you get to learn what we do, and we get to learn who you are and what your needs are much better also.
And I would add to that to get involved on issues that you care about and issues that affect the community. So earlier today, Representative Hernandez urged all of you to make a public comment on the public charge issue. I mean, that's an issue that's going to affect lots of people in the immigrant community, Latino community, and your voice really matters. And in addition to that, you know, we're constantly, you know, needing public support on bills that we run. You know, when we have bills that try to make the state the most immigrant-friendly state in the country, you know, we need support from the public to, you know, get involved, come down to Springfield, bring other people, you know, email us, call our offices to get these bills passed. And so, you know, those are really great ways to get involved. And, you know, once you do get involved, you know, you raise your profile as someone, you know, with expertise or with an interest area, and, you know, that can help you be identified as, you know, somebody that's right for an appointment, or, you know, that could serve on a board or commission or something like that. And so, you know, all these different ways, you know, we have the census coming up, and we need more people to help spread awareness about the urgency of, you know, making sure everybody in our communities get counted. You know, all kinds of issues. So, you know, ask us, and we can also point you to organizations like Latino Policy Forum that, you know, could also use volunteers.
One more thing.
So
I'm
see
just going to
Representative Hernandez and Castro. Let me. Yeah. Anyone else on this one before I move? Okay, so one more folks, and then we'll move on to the next question.
I would, to get you started, get involved in a campaign. Get involved in elections. Choose your candidate. Many times, how many times have you heard of folks, who should we vote for? Who's got that background? Who should I be paying attention? Get involved. Just right there within your community, if you hear of candidates, see who they are, get involved. That's where it starts, because you begin to ask questions because of that. And then you start learning the process. That's where it begins. And so I would just say choose whatever level it is, but get involved in an election, and I will tell you, you pick up from there.
Great.
I think one of the things that you can do, and I see a lot of students here and I see a lot of teachers here, is you can also intern at the offices. You can intern for representatives, you can intern for senators. You can also intern at the Capitol. And then you can also learn about policy, you can learn the operations of an office, you can learn a lot of things. So you can get involved in campaigns, but you can also become very actively involved with your local representation, because we have lots of projects. A lot of us are very busy, anything from researching to constituent, you know, outreach. There's a lot of stuff where we just, even our paid staff just don't have the time, and they could always use some extra help. So any of you are interested, please reach out to us. We can always connect you with, if not one of us, you know, we have our colleagues, we all work together. We can always pass along some information to get you guys involved.
All right, Representative Villanueva.
Yeah, I echo all of those sentiments. And mind you, like, you don't just have to get involved with candidates, you can also get involved with issues. The reason why I started going down to Springfield was because I was working on getting marriage equality passed back in 2013. And I was going down there taking people of color, because marriage equality was very white at that point and wasn't getting people of color involved within the process of actually talking to legislators and saying, hey, this matters to our communities. And that's actually what put marriage equality over the top. So it's something as that. I was lucky that in my previous position, I got to spend a lot of time in Springfield, because that was part of the work that we're doing. So if you don't have, because I know sometimes it tends to cost money to go down to Springfield, or you don't have the time or the flexibility, and if you're working full time, you know, if your organization organization or your institution has work with the state or even with the city or with the county, all of those are good opportunities to step up and say, hey, I want to get involved with that. To say like, maybe there's somebody else, maybe I want to shadow you in order to see like what goes on. You know, I've worked at Cook County before, I've helped out in city council before. So like all of these different things help to give you these different perspectives of how these bodies work. But I know sometimes there are limitations for people. So, you know, try to figure it out within where you're at the moment, because volunteering is great. And obviously, like, you can do that on the weekends, you can do that in the evenings. But sometimes your job, if, you know, you just ask, you might be able to get yourself in a position or put yourself in that situation where you're actually already self-selecting and saying, I want to be a leader and I want to start leading on these things. So they're all opportunities. I know that, like, in college, that was one of the things that I went out and did, and I got really involved, and that was also helped to open doors, because people were like, oh, okay, that's interesting, you're interested in this? All right, let's do this, this, and that. So, you know, also just ask where you're at and try to get involved.
So lots of ways to get involved, but it doesn't happen unless you step up. So I'd encourage you to step up, to ask a question, if you like. We have another one over here.
My name is Maria Teresa Roman, and it's a pleasure to once again see the growth of Latino legislators. For 16 years I've been coming, and every year gets better. I urge especially the newcomers to really jump in the campaign of transportation. Transportation is the one that we saw the numbers. Our students are growing, our seniors are living longer lives, poverty still continues to grow. Transportation, for many, public transportation is much needed. The state of Illinois has not been very giving to our bill. A capital bill is greatly needed. PACE, Metro, and CTA. Chicagoland really needs public transportation to continue to grow, not only because it's a service that provides, but it's also a great employer. CTA, for one, I represent CTA proudly, and we have grown greatly with internship programs. They will go away if we don't have, you know, increase of money. The 13% of Latinos who work at CTA will be the first ones out the door, because they are the younger, newer generation that have joined the workforce at CTA. So I highly encourage, I look forward to working with all of you as part of the legislative department, and hope that you invest in our capital bill.
Great. Yes, I see Senator Castro.
So just to answer to that, so I am the vice chair of transportation, and I can tell you they're beginning to be discussions on a capital bill. I know there's talk of possibly a small capital bill between what they call lame duck, which is between where people get sworn in, the new General Assembly first week. So there's discussions about that. I've already been asked by Metro to talk to them. So there are conversations about that, and I could tell you, being in the suburbs, Representative Crespo and Mueller understand the importance of transportation, especially to our communities out into the suburbs. There's a lot of jobs places, but one of the things that you hear that is a hindrance to especially the Latino community, is access to public transportation. And so we constantly have conversations with our public transit agencies, Metro, PACE, to see how we improve those aspects so we can get people to and from the jobs. Obviously, PACE has done a great job with the I-90 Express bus. If you've seen it, my husband uses it. It picks up in 2 spots in Elgin. It also picks up in Hoffman Estates, but it takes them straight to the CTA Blue Line, and then they can get to the city and vice versa. So there's a lot of different unique things that have come, because we have to figure out a different way to move people around and get transit, especially as the suburbs continue to grow.
If I can add, so we represent the same district. She's my state senator. And the issues are different, right? If you live in Chicago, you have the CTA, you have buses, you have trains, you can get around. We have to invest in the infrastructure, there's no doubt. If you go out to the suburbs where we live, for example, my district only have 1 bus route that leaves Elgin, goes all the way to Schaumburg. And there's a lot of jobs in that area, but it's really difficult for people to get around. Secondly, if we talk about a capital bill, whether small or large, we need to talk about how we're going to pay for it. And that's a critical discussion. What's the revenue stream to issue the bonds to invest in those capital projects? And thirdly, there are some issues with the structure, right? You have the RTA that serves like the umbrella for the PACE, Metro, and CTA. And sometimes we put some money out there. There's all this infighting and all these formulas that they discuss. Well, I need a little bit more than that. We have paratransit. which now falls under PACE. And it's something that's grossly underfunded. So we struggle with that in the suburbs. So we need to do something. We just have to be very smart as to how we spend the money and where we spend the money. And we need to make sure that these the transit authorities work well together and are nice together as well, so we can somehow make that happen.
Great. Pass the mic this way too.
So my answer is actually going to touch upon Capitol Bill more so than transportation, but I do agree we really have to be looking at transportation. Most of the dollars from a Capitol Bill, small or large, if you look at what happened in 2009, actually did go to transportation. Then there's other brick and mortar stuff. And so I kind of want to separate, though, the capital and transportation thing. I think what my colleague here from the Senate, what the rumors we've been hearing, I'd like to term as more of a transportation modernization bill. That's the short-term one that might happen this year. And that's what the focus is to update sort of transportation stuff and whatnot. But capital, because non-for-profits also are very interested in our education, schools and all these other organizations very interested in capital. And within capital, there's several things, especially with updating of brick and mortar for facilities. I just wanted to note that Senator Martinez and I, with the help of Representative Arroyo, in the district that I represent, had a capital funding sort of town hall where I had requested that the Senate budget people do a presentation so that we can open up the lines of communication, especially with those non-for-profits or organizations that are interested in a capital bill and applying for dollars. It's been about 10 years. There's an expectation, a large expectation, especially with this new administration, that something will be done sooner than later. But the key is, as my colleague from the suburbs, Representative Crespo said, it's about not only voting for a capital bill, that's great, but we have to have colleagues that are willing to raise those funds to pay for that as well. So I would encourage my colleagues, if they want, they should do a capital bill town hall as well in their districts, partner up with as many colleagues as possible, because the more that we can leverage and get those dollars and resources back to our communities is a good thing. But the other thing is to make sure that we're opening up lines of communication with you all, because we cannot be better advocates for you if we don't know of the projects and ideas that you have within our communities. So part of that town hall was to open up those lines of communication so that we know what those projects are. So when it comes down the pipeline, if it's in a few months or in a couple years, that we know that we can advocate for specific projects. So.
That's great. Anyone else on that before we move on? Okay, so question over here.
Thank you, Silvia. My name is Artemio Arreola, and first I want to congratulate the women, because I can see the women power on the table. 3-1. I hope it's not voting right now, because I'm sorry, representantes, and senador, you got lost. My point is this, and I hear the voice of the Senador del Valle: the more power, the more responsibility. And also I see the responsibility in this table is not just for Latinos, because we're working and make the more immigrant welcome. Immigrants means if we are 70% of Latinos, well, guess what? More than double are immigrants, and who are really fighting for the immigrants' issues? Pues you. How you guys framing our numbers, not just the 70%, it's 30%, and go behind the budget. Figure out and do the census or whatever, all the programs serve immigrants, and every single issue. Because when they're talking about the immigrants, I hear in Springfield, many they thinking, oh, go with the Latino caucus. Well, yeah, it's great, you stand up, but at the end of the day, we are like 40 million immigrants in the state of Illinois.
Well, not quite 40 million. The state of Illinois only has 13 million.
Well, 13, I'm sorry, you're right. Okay, I'm thinking about the federal. But my point is, see the other way to see how you can increase the way to we demanded more money for our community. This is my point. Thank you.
How do we bring in more resources to our immigrant communities? Thank you, Artemio. So I'll just, you guys know I'm the data geek here, right? So we just did some analysis that showed, surprisingly, of the 1.8, 1.7 million immigrants in the state of Illinois, only 45% are from Mexico or Latin America, right? So I think that's just a reminder to ourselves. We're the largest group of immigrants in the state of Illinois, but we're certainly not the only group. So this issue, someone mentioned working across sectors and working across racial ethnic groups. This is definitely an area where we can do more of that. So how do we think about more resources for immigrants? I see Representative Ma.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think that, there's a great diversity among our immigrant population, and there are issues that cross ethnic lines, right? So, one of the issues that I think is really important to address is language access, for state government services. This is something that we really need to look into because, people who are limited English proficient should have the same rights to access state government services. And right now, it is extremely challenging, for someone, who does not speak English or can't read English. There are a number of challenges at, every level, every aspect of accessing state government services. And so that's an issue we need to address. And, we can't just kick the can down the road. We need to invest resources into making sure that we change the current situation. So, that's just one area, but, there are a host of other areas where, we need to make sure that social services have a dedicated pot of money because, as we saw during the budget impasse, everybody else, got their protected pot of money, but social services were the last ones to, have access to anything. And, as a result, we saw a lot of suffering and pain and closures and layoffs and organizations closing down. And so, that's something else that we need to address because, large portions of our populations need access, continued access to social services, and that money needs to be protected somehow.
Great. Representative Hernandez?
I'm just going to add, I think that there's a piece here that we have to continue working. We have a larger caucus now, and I think it is upon us to, it's a little bit of educating our remainder colleagues. I have to tell you, I've been in office for 12 years. I've been sitting in the Appropriation Human Services. I've been, from the very get-go, working on immigrant issues. Many times I had to start my conversation that immigrant did not mean only Latino, and Latino did not mean undocumented. Okay? So we have to get that across. There has to be a clarity of what immigration means. It does not mean an undocumented person. And so the rhetoric that comes across through across the nation really confuses the public. So it's upon us to get that right. And so when we start the conversation, we have to put clarity. And I think with our added caucus members, I'm really excited about our new year coming. I think that we are going to be fulfilling some of those gaps.
Anyone else on this one? Yes.
I think for me, obviously, understanding the intersectionality of the work and understanding that it's not just about Latino issues, it's about gender issues, it's about racial and ethnic issues, it's about socioeconomic status, because I think one of the other things that we're talking about is also Latinos are not a monolithic group, none of these groups are, and understanding that there are very vulnerable populations among us. When we talk about immigrant groups and understanding the particularly like the situation in Puerto Rico and how that's affected communities here in Illinois, and all of these different factors of like the different ways that people have arrived to the state of Illinois in which they've arrived. I think it's important to highlight those experiences and those differences, but also understand what brings us together and the commonalities that move us together, because it's that solidarity within that intersectionality that's really going to be able to propel us to where we need to be. Because at the end of the day, you know, the tactics that are used to divide us are all of those differences, to say, well, you know, Latinos should get more than this, and, you know, or Asians, you should be over there, and, you know, black communities should be over here. At the end of the day, I think what we're all trying to do and what we're striving to do, and what I know that I'm striving to do, is to make Illinois a better place than what it's been, to make it the place that I know that it can be.
All right, I see 3 more questions. Okay, if you're not standing at the mic, I don't know you're asking, and we only have 10 more minutes. So let's take the next 2 questions and then the next questions. And then what I'm going to end on is, I'll give you guys a heads up, because we're in this time and there's tremendous amount of inspiration, I think, and changes in the air, I'll ask you to close very quickly with, what was your first political act, or how did you know you could make a difference? And we'll end on that and then go to the reception. Okay? All right, because we've only got till 3, guys. I'm really sorry. Let's get both of the questions on the table over here.
My name is Mateo Valle. I work for the Family Clinic at University of Illinois, and I'm also advisor for Grupo Salto. Grupo Salto born out of the Family Clinic. Right now we have over 550 families listed with autism. My concern is that we lost the grant from DHS that supported most of our low-income families, Latino families. One of in this case, would be more like a wish, or to please keep in mind the disability community, especially the autism. There was only 2 clinics that serve families that have children with autism. One of them is the UIC Family Clinic, and the other one is Masonic. We serve low-income families, and we're very concerned because we have a lot of families having problems with mental health, depression, and we have a big waiting list. So I want you to please keep that in mind.
I just want to add, because she basically said everything about our clinic, but I just want to let you know that I appreciate the comment that you made about the social services being slashed, because we were one of the programs after a 20-year grant awarded. And we do wonderful work. We're still a skeleton crew because people want that stability, and there's a lot of young people that are worried about whether or not they're going to have a job. So I'm one of the last remaining souls there, but I'm there because I'm very passionate about the work that I do. I believe in what I do. I believe in people with disabilities. I've been in the field for over 25 years, and we have a great number of Latino families coming to us. We don't only see Latino families. We welcome everyone, but we are one of the remaining clinics that can assess these individuals and try to provide programming for them. So when you talk about your communities and reaching out to them, please keep in mind that there's a lot of people with disabilities, a lot of people that need jobs, a lot of people that need supports in the community. Okay, thank you.
So autism, and let's take the last comment, and then I'll ask you guys to respond to both or either question.
Hi, my name's Ere, and I came to the U.S. when I was 4 years old. Luckily, I have DACA now and have a job that gives me health insurance. But my, yeah, that's great. So my parents are actually getting older. My dad is 61, and my mom is 63, and she hates that I always say that. And my tia is 66, and 2 weeks ago, she had a massive stroke. And now it took half of her, unfortunately half of her brain is now dead, and she won't be able to stand or walk anymore. All of my family is undocumented, and so now what I'm really worried about is that she's been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and she doesn't have health insurance. And obviously, as the rest of my family continues to age, it's becoming more and more of a concern for folks like me as well as for them. So my question is, I'm wondering what you all would do to work with us to make sure that Illinois is the first state in the nation to expand health care coverage for people like my parents. Thank you.
All right. Who would like to respond? Senator Martinez?
I'm going to start, and I know that many of us have a lot, because one of the things that we sit on committees, and we when it comes to budget time, and good thing that we have someone like Lisa and both Fred Crespo on the appropriations, and we have also Omar, also Kino. But you know, I always want to say that there is something that we always need from you, and many of you that work out there in the community-based organizations or in, you know, non-for-profit. Please come and talk to us. Let us know exactly what is going on. We don't know all the time. Sometimes when something was cut, you know, and the funds were slashed for whatever, and we have that because sometimes at the end of the year we put together a budget based on all the requests that are out there, the needs that are out there. I mean, autism and people with disability is one of our #1. That we cover. We always make sure that there is money available to take care of the most vulnerable. That's something that we do, and I think all of us advocate for that. You know, one of the things too that, you know, and I know that as our aging population becomes, you know, gets there, we're going to need to make sure that there is expanded health care for them, for the simple fact that right now, you know, and for people who don't have insurance, have to go to the hospital, always remember, and that's something that I work really hard on, and that's the charity care. Every hospital has a charity care, but they don't actually announce it to people. And so there is applications right there in the hospital that they have to offer you. If there is not, if they don't offer you, you have to ask for it. But they will not just give it to you and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have insurance." No, you know, but then you don't qualify. That, you know, we have to make sure that we tell people and that you expand on those kind of services out there, that we have to make sure that we have to fund as much as we can. But most important is there's a lot of things out there that sometimes they don't tell the general public, because of the fact that they're trying to save money. A lot of these hospitals are always the ones that save money. And a lot of these hospitals in our neighborhoods, you know, are dealing, you know, in the red right now. And those are our safety net hospitals that are so important for us to make sure that we keep them open. So there's a lot of things going on, but we need your help too to let us know what is going on out there, you know, in the areas where you work, you know, and the fact that we have skeleton crews. I know I heard from a lady earlier about some of the abuses that are going on in the departments right now against people, and I think that's very important. You have to let us know these things. That's the only way we're going to hold these agencies accountable of the treatment of our people in the workforce, especially our frontline workers that are the most important one out there, because you're the ones that are actually going to people's homes. You're actually, you know, taking care of these individuals. We need to know that these agencies are doing the right thing and are not overloading you and cutting you off and whatever it is. It's important. That's why we're here. That's why this caucus is here, for us to make sure that we interact with you and let us know what's going on so we can continue to legislate and find the dollars, because you know what? There's enough money to go around to our communities, you know, but we have to make sure that, you know, that we put our appropriations, you know, needs into our budget all the time. That's why it's important that all of you just stay working with us on the needs of, you know, of your agencies, I mean, wherever you work, and what is really going on there. So I encourage you that, you know, we're here to help you, but we need your help also. Okay, thank you.
Great.
I just want you, real quick, I just want you to know that what happened with a lot of these social agencies, we appropriated the money. So just so you understand, General Assembly appropriated money, but we cannot force the governor to give you the money and him to spend it. So I just want that to be clear. Just because we put it in the budget, as one of my friends out there knows, I put a little bit of money in the budget somewhere, but that is just letters on a piece of paper. It does not mean, unfortunately, much. An appropriation is just letters on a piece of paper, which sometimes you can't even do anything with that piece of paper. So I want to make that clear, the social service agencies. I think.
Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So it was working earlier.
Time is up. I got all these microphones. Okay, is this one? Okay, so I almost forgot what I was going to say. Well, you know, you talk about autism, so let's talk briefly about autism, disability services, and mental health. To start out with, we rank either last or next to last when it comes to funding for disability services and mental health. Again, so the status quo is a bad place to be at to begin with. Secondly, and I agree with Andrade, we did prioritize these things in our budget, And I say prioritize, and I'll explain why. And the governor decided not to fund this. As a matter of fact, we had a budget like three and a half years ago where we funded autism. And this guy has such a sick sense of humor that on Autism Day, he cut the funding for autism. That's what we have to do, what we had to deal with. Now, I heard a comment that we have the money. I kind of disagree with that. Just let's listen to what we heard today. We need money for capital for transportation. Earlier today, we heard higher ed says we need money. You've heard me say that for K through 12, we need an additional $7 billion to adequately fund that. We heard today we need money for social services. We don't have that much money. Okay. So the question is, what do we do to enhance revenue to somehow meet those needs? And secondly, what do we prioritize? We need to prioritize how we're going to spend the money and when. And it's not an easy decision to make, but rest assured, I can almost promise you that starting next year, we're going to be a damn better place than we have in the last 4 years. And I believe that's going to happen. And in terms of medical care for undocumented, you know, some would argue that, well, we have urgent care, we have charity care. You go to an emergency hospital, they can't turn you away. Well, that's fine when it comes to emergency needs, but when it comes to preventive care, that's where we have a problem. And that's where we have to have a dialogue and figure out what can we do with the limitations that we have to make sure we can secure the help for those that need the help when it comes to preventive care. Because I think that's where the real problem is.
Okay. So we're basically out of time, but let's get these last three questions up, and then we'll do quick responses.
We'll go over just a few minutes because the next part is at 3:30, so we have a few.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll have just one final closing comment by this young man over here. My question is pretty simple, directed at Representative Crespo and Senator Iris Martinez. How do you come up with an issue that is a caucus issue, and particularly in light of having supermajorities in each of the chambers? How do you find an issue that rises up to that level where you potentially withhold? We have 10 women and 8 men in our next General Assembly, so I think that's pretty neat. So those are blocks of votes. How do you handle that?
How do you handle that? Your question?
Oh, go ahead. Ask your question.
Well, last round, let's get all the questions out, and then we'll do a last round of responses.
Okay. Michael Diaz, so, you know, we all agree that education is important and that we need to hold Governor-elect Pritzker accountable for appointments within his administration. But my request is that we also not lose sight, and let's pay attention to our institutions of higher education, the state, the universities here, and let's hold those presidents and chancellors and et cetera accountable, because I guarantee you, if you do an analysis of positions, you'll find that Latinos we're nowhere close, that there's disparity there. And to me, that's low-hanging fruit that needs to be addressed.
Great.
My name is Eva Hernandez, and it's just a comment. I don't expect an answer. All of the goals...
It's hard to hear you.
All of the goals that you are marking, this and this and this, we cannot reach them if the issue of mental health is not taken care of. That is our biggest barrier to achieve our potential. And I think that you should be more involved in linking what you are offering to mental health services. That's a comment. Thank you.
Okay, I know everybody up there, and you all know that Miguel del Valle is not only my inspiration, but one of my best friends. But I need to tell you that what you, in my opinion, what needs to be done is you have to grab opportunities in all of these departments to put Latinos in leadership positions. You have the state board, you have the higher board, you have the community board, and it's about time that these positions are not token, but elevated to the extent that they facilitate what you want to do. Already, there's tremendous competition out there for many of these directorships, managers, higher levels of cabinet positions. Please, I implore you, I beg you to get solid, to be strong, to be united, and get some of these positions for Latinos.
Great.
Okay? And Sylvia, thank you so much. You're such a good friend.
Thank you. I don't want to blush. So mental health, higher education, how does an issue rise to the level where you all agree on it and work together? And how do we take advantage of this moment in time to create more opportunities for our community?
In the interest of time, I'll answer the higher ed question. I'm on the higher ed committee. And one of the things that you're right, we do need more diversity in higher ed. We need a lot of diversity in higher ed, not only in the public universities, but the community colleges as well, because that is where a lot of the Latino students end up, is at the community colleges. So one of the things is community college boards are elected. And I guess that's one of the things when we talked about also with public higher ed is as we're working with the new administration is we need to, as former Senator Del Valle has said, we need to be loud with the administration to say we need equal representation across all commissions, and yes, in higher ed. And you've seen some of the battles with higher ed, especially with Latino students. Iris, you had a bill for U of I. There were some issues there. There has been issues at SIU. There's been issues at a lot of different schools. So I think by having that equal representation, that'll help bring a voice for those students. And also the faculty. We need more diverse faculty as well.
Yes, Senator Martinez.
One of the things that I know we've already started, and we're going to continue to do is, we're going to start having more hearings in some of these departments. I think it's important more than ever now that we have a new administration. Again, I think that many of us are going to be looking to see where all these vacancies are at, all these jobs are at in every agency. I want to make sure that we just don't get the bottom of the barrel, but that we get decision-making, really directors' jobs, deputy directors' jobs. Those are the kind of jobs that we need, because of the fact it's going to make a difference in what's going on in these departments. Over the course of the 16 years that I've been a legislator, I have heard a lot of things that go on in some of these departments, and we have to be a stronger force with some of these agency directors in the past, that sometimes, were very hard to work with. Even with us, I was at a hearing and the director disrespected me right there on the spot. I don't think he would have done it if it would have been a white, individual, senator talking to him that way. So we had to kind of stop him and say, hey, take it easy. You're dealing with me. So nothing's going to get past me. That's not going to happen. But it just shows you that we need to make sure that these individuals that are coming in that are going to take these jobs now, that understand that we have to build our numbers. Our numbers are very low across the whole entire state. I think the idea of making sure that we have these top jobs, we have to get some of those. I will not settle for just a deputy job when all the other top jobs are given out to non-Latinos or non-people of color. That has got to change right now. Another thing on the mental health, the lady who talked about mental health, let me just say this. That is very important to us, very, very important to us, more than ever now, but I think it was something that was never important to this governor. I know that now our present governor has made it part of his platform about making sure that there is more dollars going to mental health, that we need to open up our clinics back in the city of Chicago that we need it for mental health, and that we're going to have to put pressure on whoever the next new mayor may be, but it's important that, like I said, keep engaged, stay with us, and making sure that we're letting us know what's going on in these departments at the lower level, because you know what? That is where a lot of the problems are. So we have to make sure that we find people at the top level that will respect our people that are out there in the front line doing the hardest work ever out there. So, I feel real confident. We have a lot of new members. We have a very strong, I think, stronger than ever, new. And I think the fact that right now in the Senate Democrats, we have 40 senators to their 19. So that's going to, and within that caucus, I want to say that as a leader, I do talk a lot to President Cullerton. We do talk among our caucus members about making sure that every caucus of the Senate is represented,
you know, in the right way. So you know what? We're going to continue to work. I'm very hopeful with this new governor. I think he's going to be happy to work with this body right here, because I think that, well, all we want is our fair share. That's all we're asking for, our fair share of making sure that we become part of this administration that governs the state. So thank you.
So I saw Representative Willis and then Representative Hernandez.
So I was just going to go briefly on the mental health. That is one of the things that we have continued. We fought for 3 years with our previous governor on it. He decimated what we had in mental health, and that has hurt communities throughout. It doesn't matter if you're Latino, white, Asian, it did not matter. You were hurt by these cuts. We actually in the House put together for the first time 2 years ago a mental health committee, and members of that committee are on JB's transition team for family and community health. And we know from what JB has told us and continues is showing with this transition team that he is putting priorities there. We know we need to continue to do that. We can't have people not have support systems in the community, whether it's addiction or other mental health issues. We need to help them to be able to function well in their communities, and that's one of the things that we'll be working harder for as we go forward.
And I'm going to speak a little bit for our newer colleagues as well, because these have been conversations that we've had with both State Representative-elects Delia Ramirez and Aaron Ortiz, is that mental health is extremely important for the newer ones that are of us that are coming into the caucus, because we've been at the forefront, but we've also been within the communities where this is something that, you know, I've been a youth development professional since I was the age of 14, and mental health was something that has never escaped me throughout my entire professional career. And so I'm looking forward to being able to work with the people up here on this stage, and then also other people in Springfield, where this is a huge priority for folks, because, I mean, truth be told, what we're experiencing right now is traumatic for all of us. And it's something that, like, we're going to see this generationally, what the effects of what's happening right now in history is going to have, not just on our bodies and not just on our mental health, but, you know, for generations to come. So I think it's extremely important. And so I think we're looking forward to being able to actually move something forward on this.
Mm-hmm. I got it.
We'll start this way.
So I'm going to answer you, Mike, what you asked. How are we going to do this? We're a big enough block. So we're a block. Well, the House is. Okay, so we have an ability. Some are disagreeing with me, but I see that we have numbers here that we can take advantage of. All right? And in the House, there's definitely a block. It's a matter of coming together and being uniformed on this. This is what we need to work on. So there's an increase in numbers, and that's how you do it. If there is a demand of what we need, then we have to step it up, and we step it up as a block. So that could be a measure of how. And the other point I just want to make is that this is the whole purpose of this conference, is that you give us your input. You have put mental health into the priority list. This is why we ask for your participation, because you are the ones that bring us the feedback. So what you're telling us, this is what we're listing. We're hearing you out, and so that's how we begin to prioritize for the coming year.
And so, a quick close. No stories, a phrase or a sentence. What was your first political act, or how did you know you can make a difference? So we can do this quick to close. And we'll start at the other end. Representative Willis.
First one that I did on my own, allowing people with disabilities that have diabetes to have insulin shots given to them by their caretakers, not registered nurses.
Great.
Going with my mom to citizenship workshops and helping other community members become citizens when I was about 6.
Well, my first pure political act was running for city council, living in Elgin, and running because a candidate was succeeded in getting elected who ran on a platform of making life as difficult as possible for illegal aliens. and he won, and that was when I decided that I needed to step up even though I am not in the Latino community, or I'm not Latino by ethnicity, and I'm not an immigrant, it offended me that somebody in my community would run on that platform and win, and that wasn't the kind of community I want to raise my kids in. So that's what prompted me to run for city council. I know you didn't want to say.
I would say that my act was, I was a lobbyist for the city of Chicago in Springfield in 2000, and Senator Miguel del Valle convinced me that I should run as the first Latina in the state Senate, and I won, and here I am 16 years later. So yeah, that was my act. Miguel del Valle is to blame.
I guess I'll be more specific about the first time I got involved in advocacy in Springfield was in 2010 when I helped to pass the Illinois Voting Rights Act.
I think my first action is I ran for office. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. You know, and not to, I mean, it's actually 4 because I ran for local. So it's just persistency. It's really, you know, that was it. It's my action. You know, I wanted to make the difference. I wanted to give representation, and that was my action.
So actually, you know what? I never really thought that I would be running for office. So like, I was a volunteer head coach for cross country and track and field where my girls went to school. And once they graduated from 8th grade, I had some free time in my hands. I just wanted to give back to the community, and I got involved in Hoffman Estates and different commissions. And the mayor met me then, and he wanted some diversity on the village board and asked me to run for office. And I ran for the first time. I won. And then 6 months later, I was recruited to run for this seat, and I ran, and I won. And actually, my first visit to Springfield was as a state rep, because I had never been there before. So I'm still running, and I enjoy what I'm doing, and I think I'll try to continue doing this as long as I think I can make a difference in my community and in the state of Illinois.
So I actually was kind of like Fred. I never thought I'd run for political office. You would have told me when I was in high school I'd be where I'm at, and I would laugh. The reason why I ended up getting involved was there was someone on the county board who was appointed who actually did nothing. And I said, you know, had no political experience, no idea how to run for office. I had good friends who are here who showed me the ropes, who helped me get my petitions, who showed me how to knock on doors, and I won that primary with 80% of the vote. So I served two terms on the county board, and then this opportunity arose to run for the state senate, and I won that in 2016.
Clap for her, Cheese it. Come on. So mine was 8th grade, and I beat a boy for president, student body president. A woman had never won it. And then fast forward, I was the first elected Democrat in 25 years in Kane County and the first Latina outside of Cook County in the history of Illinois at the state level. And look at all the stuff that's happened since.
First political event that I was involved was I was at a summer job at the city of Chicago for low-income students. And one of the commissioners ran for alderman, and I worked for the candidate against Alderman Dick Mill, who was at that time, very powerful, but I didn't know what it was. And then he incorporated me into his organization. And I do got to say something real quick, I'm sorry, but Michael Gonzalez mentioned something about we have a supermajority, 74, 73. That's actually not a good thing for the Latino community. And I'm going to say, it's not. You have to understand our votes are not needed now. They are not needed. And understand this, 74 Democrats, they are very, very different. A lot of the Democrats that are elected do not believe in our issues and will not vote for our issues. So that has to be taken into consideration. The expectation out there in the community is something that might be undeliverable. So I just want to say, it's going to be, people see very good things in the next 4 years. It's going to be very painful and difficult because the expectations of agencies is just, it's just not there. And Fred Crespo's right. It doesn't matter. The numbers just don't add up for us. So just sorry. I know I'm not supposed to speak, but I just wanted to.
Happy Friday. Of course.
Way to bring it down, Jamie.
I'll just let it end. Yeah, I'll just let it end on that solemn note, and then we go into Thanksgiving, just all really kind of down there. But I don't remember my first political or civic engagement because, like Selena, my family was very involved in the community, both at church and then in politics and so forth. So I remember knocking on doors, or at least my father was, and I would hand him a petition or whatever it was that I was holding back when I was like 6 or so. Actually, my first fondest memory of knocking on doors was a block away from where my current district office was. And the irony, though, was it was against my predecessor when he was a state house member. My father was helping someone that was running against him. But lo and behold, life turns out very differently, and I look up to that. My predecessor is Willie Delgado, for those that don't know him, and I absolutely love and adore him. But so my first or the most engaging one is kind of similar, similar to this Representative Hernandez and Crespo, was a little bit of a combination of their story. I had been to Springfield before. When you go to CPS, you go in an 8th grade trip, and so that was the first time I ever went to Springfield. The second time was in 2011. I worked for the speaker for about a year in a very low starting job. It was almost an internship level. I think I got paid as much as that. And then 5 years later, I returned as a state senator. But this is to all the young people, and if you're a student or you're not, whatnot, and even if you're not young, it happened because I was a 26-year-old that saw a lot of things happening in my community and was very frustrated by the lack of leadership. Truly, and I ran for city council for alderman as a 26-year-old because I had this crazy notion that I could do the job. I lost. I did okay, but in the finale of a runoff, I lost and got my butt kicked. But a year later, I ran for Senate, and the story is a little different. I'm going to take a few. I have the mic, and I'm an elected official, so I'm going to take the mic for just a second. The numbers are not. I sort of agree and not agree with the representative in something. Supermajorities, absolutely, historically, it's not a good thing. It isn't. I think we're at a better point, though, like Representative Hernandez mentioned. We have a lot more members here, and it's not just having someone that looks like you or whatnot, but actually reflects the community they're from. So it's not just that Selena and Delia and Aaron and Karina look like us and have a similar surname. It's their message that brought them here, that they are excited to, and Selena, I'll swear with you, to kick ass, kick butt in the General Assembly and hold people accountable. In the Senate, we have 5 members, 3 of which are in leadership. And I look to them, and they are true leaders. But we need to make sure that this governor, our Senate president, and our speaker just don't take us for granted. All right? We need to make demands of that. So if they want our vote for a capital bill, to raise the taxes and revenue in different ways, that a lot of others that just got elected in different communities won't take those votes, but would spend that money. One of the most ridiculous things I've ever saw was members voting for a budget bill, but wouldn't vote for the implementation. If you're good enough to spend the money, be good enough to raise it and make the difficult decisions. I'm sorry. Every single time we are asked to make difficult decisions, to go back to our own communities and say, I know things are difficult, but as a better thing for all of us, we have to ask for more from each other. But then those resources, where are they going? So I'm excited because there are some people up here that want to kick butt. And I'm looking forward to, with them and with you all, to doing that together, to building coalitions. If we don't have enough in the Senate or in the House or whatnot, then we look to the Black Caucus, we look to the Progressive Caucus, we look to others to join us. Whoever it is. Yeah. All right? So, God bless you all. Have a happy Thanksgiving. There's a lot to be thankful, but let's not rest on our laurels.
So there's no great mystery here. We have a totally accessible caucus. You heard their stories. Please engage with them. Thank you all for being here. Have a blessed holiday season. Y adelante.